Hello and welcome to the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast. I'm, of course, FPL Nima, and I'm joined by my co-host Clayton for a very special North London derby preview today. So it's the big one, isn't it? And I love the
It's the
graphics on the
second one.
thumbnail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's come
exactly. The
round again.
first one went so well.
I know. Yeah,
Hopefully
that's
it's a
why.
repeat.
Yeah, that is exactly why I picked those two images. I felt like it was a no-brainer. Yeah, flipping out. It's come round. I think. Yeah, like we said in the first, like around the first time when we played them, like the build-up to it, I hate. Like I genuinely hate it. And to be honest, it hasn't felt like it's the derby this weekend yet to me. I don't
Yeah,
know
it's not
why.
felt
I
real
don't,
to me yet either. I've tried to
yeah.
just distance myself from that anxiety leading up to it as much as I can.
Yeah, like earlier in the year, the whole week before it, like I started getting like quite anxious and stuff like that. But I don't like I've got a few sorry, excuse me, I've got a few things going on like in personal life at the minute. So I don't know if that's like distracting, but now that we're sat here talking about it, I've got that feeling in my stomach already, like, oh fuck, it's here.
I know. I'm just there's loads of permutations people have been talking about of like United beating City, us losing to like United and Spurs, and then like suddenly United are there like next to us in the table, and so there's definitely these next few fixtures I think leading up to mid Feb when we face City, they're going to be kind of super telling about what we can expect for our season and how it ends. I can't hear you, Clayton. I think you can hear me, but for some reason, I don't know if it's just me who can't
What
hear
about
you
now?
or.
Is it back?
Oh yeah, I can hear. Yeah, it's back. Yeah.
Yes, I think I put myself on mute to cough and I forgot to take myself off.
Oh no worries. Yeah, no,
uh,
I thought maybe the listeners could hear you and it was just a me problem, but I'm glad we
no,
solved that.
yeah, my bad. Yeah, no, all I was saying was basically just echoing what you say. It's a season-defining run. I think obviously we've got a tough run, but everyone's been ignoring the fact that City do too. And I think come February the 15th, we will have a very good idea on what we can achieve this season. I think both us and City. So, but yeah, Well, I say it starts. We're in the middle of the tough run, but obviously the big one this weekend. Do you want to go straight into it, or do you want to touch on Oxford? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I thought if we I don't think Oxford really warrants more than maybe a minute at best. So maybe we just give like
Yeah,
30 seconds each on our thoughts of that game. If you want,
go
I don't
on,
know
you
if you want
kick
to
it
go
off.
first or okay, I'll go first. So I think the first half is just that we can forget about that. That's not even worth discussing beyond the fact that we've now been charged for a second consecutive game by the FA for
Don't
appealing
get
a
me
penalty
started.
decision. So there is that, I guess, there's that one key part in the first half. Second half, I thought when we made the changes for Zinchenko to come on for Tierney, and also when Xhaka came on for Lokonga, I think we just had a lot more control in the midfield. It really showed the drop off in quality once we don't have those first 11 players in there. So I
Yeah,
definitely still am keen that we bring in more than just a winger this January. If we can get like another central mid as cover, that would be great. But how realistic that is, I don't know. I guess I really was happy for Eddie as well. I think obviously it's been 4 games since he's been starting
that
when Jesus
song.
is gone.
Is
Yeah,
it
I
is it
saw the
ethical
song.
if I sing the song? I can't get it out of my head. I just cannot get it out of my head.
I saw he actually referenced it himself as well, so he's clearly heard the song too.
It's such a banger. Yeah, I don't know if it's right to kind of do it with the accent, so I'm not going to do it. But I keep singing it around the house like all the time. It's so addictive. We should link it in case anyone doesn't know what we're
Yeah,
talking
we'll put
about.
it in here. The new Eddie song about everyone's having nightmares because he's gonna play them. Yeah, he's
Your
definitely
defense
scoring.
is in trouble.
Yeah, your defense is in trouble, Eddie and Ketty. What a song. But no, I'm just so happy for the kid. I feel like these kind of first 4 games, they've really bolstered his confidence. I think if we were sitting here and he'd not scored in any of these 4 games, I don't think we'd be in the same mood we're in now. That's for certain. I think we needed him, and it was telling when Arteta said that we were without Jesus for months. He kind of said a number of months,
Yeah,
and we only have one striker, and this is difficult situation. So the fact that he's kind of performing and he's also elevating the rest of his game beyond just goal scoring, I think this is super important. And it seems like Jesus is just constantly there, like, motivating him and the rest of
yeah.
the team and leading. He's in the dressing room, he's on the sidelines, saw he was back on a bike. He's got his braces off now and crutches are gone. So I wish him well and a swift recovery, but I just really hope that these 4 games have set up Eddie for the big one, because getting those goals against Oxford, I was just like, wow. And obviously Vieira got his 2 assists.
Yeah, that was good.
Don't think there was much to write home about his first half, but I'm glad he kind of responded to the first half. And it's clear that we have someone whose technical abilities and kind of vision and playmaking are quite good. And
his end product's very good, isn't it?
yeah, like the closer, whenever he plays close to goal, he has goals and assists in him. I think like he probably can do that a lot better than someone like Xhaka in reality. So I'm still kind of keen to see in some of the games against weaker opponents where they play like a deep block in the Prem, if there's going to be opportunities for him to play in like a kind of Odegaard playing on the left, maybe even, and
well, that's
Vieira
what we
playing
did
on the
against
right.
Wolves, right? And that worked really well when Xhaka went off and he came on.
Yeah, so I think I'd like to see more of that from him. I do still think it's a developmental year for him, and I'd hope that he settles into the Prem for next season. But he's an exciting player that we have on our hands. And, whenever Arteta spoke about him, he always says, I think you're all going to be very excited.
He loves him. Yeah. I'm very happy with him. And to be like on the Oxford game, I know you said let's kind of just whiz through it.
Let's take your take on it as well. Yeah,
basically the same as you. I think first half for me, first half for me really highlighted the fact on we have an unbelievable 11, 12, 13, and the drop off beyond that is absolutely bonkers. And I think it shows in some of his tactical decisions, who he trusts to bring on in certain areas. But for me, if we're going to go on and win, I know we're talking about the FA Cup, but if we're going to go on and win this title, we absolutely need to increase the level of quality in this squad. And I think it's not about having a backup for every position. For me, it's taking that core 13 first team level quality players to like a versatile 16, 17 and that he trusts. And I know that's not going to happen now in January, but kind of aiming to get there by the summer. But on the Oxford game, first half, I thought was absolutely pathetic. I thought it was really bad. And I get it was a disjointed 11 and stuff, but
and I guess like the pitch as well, right? Like even Eddie mentioned in his interview, it's not exactly like the ball's just bouncing around off the pitch, but it's difficult for our side to play, not to use a Klopp excuse there, but
no, it definitely played a part in it. But I was really disappointed because I think, me, so Sambi, maybe let's have a chat about him another day. So he's someone I have backed a lot. I think he's a really talented kid, but there is something missing there. And whether his confidence is shot, I know he's obviously got fast tracked having to play the 6 when Partey was out, but he needs to be doing more.
These are the games where you stake a claim for the manager to think, should you play in the Premier League? And he's just totally disappointed.
Yeah, that's maybe one for I don't know, the review pod where we talk in Q&A
I think
about
we can talk about it after.
Yeah, but on the Oxford game, I thought first half was quite disappointing. Second half, everyone turned up, got the job done. It was interesting. He went for the full front three. Thought that was interesting, trying to get some
I think that was something
legs
we didn't expect. Yeah, but I guess it would have been a big gap, right? They would have not played for almost 2 weeks if they didn't play in that game. And it's not like, Nelson's injured. Clearly, he doesn't see Marquinhos and Vieira as, so Marquinhos is like someone who's going to come in that Saka role. So we always knew, I guess, that one of Martinelli or Saka would probably start, but I was surprised to see both. But I think it just shows that, I think I'd said to you that I thought maybe the fact that he didn't sub anyone on in the 0-0 against Newcastle, maybe it was a signal to the board. But on hindsight, now looking at the Oxford game, I agree with you that it's just a stark reality of he cannot trust what's left to bring on as a starter.
But I think that's fine for Oxford. Should we plow through?
Yeah, let's go to
that lot down the road.
Lineup. So I guess the predicted lineup is probably back to being very stable again. Even the left back role, I don't think there's any debates like there have been many weeks this season, right?
Just another one on Oxford. And again, it's another one that we'll probably talk about in a longer episode, but I think we're going to move beyond Tierney soon. I don't think Arteta trusts or rates him in that inverted role, personally.
Yeah, I'd love him to stay as part of the squad, but I don't see if that's going to be realistic when it gets to summer. There's an opportunity there to sell him, and he himself might not be quite happy. He's always been a starter and a key part of every team he's ever played for in his career. And with what our team needs in that position now, where we basically play without a left back, they just play in midfield. I'm not quite sure if that's going to be someone that does get moved on. I'd like to think he doesn't, but he did not look good in that game. There have been games where he's looked good, But that
Yeah,
game
they have,
against
to be fair.
Oxford, he did not look good. Him and Lukonga got hooked for a reason, right?
Yeah, but yeah, what made me bring that up was obviously it doesn't feel too long ago there was a discussion on, oh, is it going to be Tierney, Tommy, or Zinchenko? And Zinchenko is so important. Like, I'd say he is one of the, I think he's the most important player in the first phase in how we build up and our structure and how we look to kind of build out from the back. The way he and Partey kind of just control that first phase and kind of look to pop it off and set up the attacks. Yeah, there's not a doubt in my mind. Zinchenko is first choice left back, and there hasn't been for a while, to be honest. And I know
Yeah,
at a
so some
time,
really interesting new stuff I saw today, actually. So one of the things they were saying was that it was actually Mikel Arteta at Man City who decided to convert him from an attacking midfielder to an
oh
inverted
really?
fullback. And obviously, for years, we've all heard that it was Pep, but it seems to be on the contrary. And that was one of the reasons that he was so keen to join us under Arteta in the summer, because obviously Arteta played a key part in like his change in
His
position when he
development,
came to
yeah.
the Prem, and his development. So that was quite an interesting thing I wasn't aware of before. Another thing was that words come out that apparently I guess the requirements or like the physical shape regime at Arsenal is far stricter than at City.
Okay.
And yeah, so they've come out and they're saying that Zinchenko's kind of the fittest and leanest and at his physical best than he's been in his career right now. So that's
Oh
again
really?
quite an interesting one, because I think there was a lot of games where we missed him because of injuries, and we know he had lots of recurring injuries at City as well. We would always rush him back for our games, right? Like he played on October 1st against like Spurs in the first North London derby after like not playing for a month. He played against every team where we had a tough opponent. He would come straight back into the lineup generally, even if he hadn't trained. And
Yeah.
I think now I'm starting to figure out more and more that he is definitely Arteta's main left back. And the only reason we've not seen him necessarily play all the time was because he was still trying to get over like recurring
Yeah, it was
injury issues.
availability, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And I'm
yeah.
hoping
Agree.
that he's kind of maybe put that a little bit behind him in terms of
Hopefully.
obviously his history with injuries at City as well. I'm hoping the fact they're saying he's in his best physical shape, that means he's getting into a position where he's comfortable. And just similarly on Smith Rowe, I want to add
Good
Smith Rowe
point.
as well. So
Yeah,
good to see
he's
him come on.
returned.
I think that's the
He
one
looks
thing that,
lean, don't he? He looks like
yeah,
he's,
every time he
yeah.
comes back, he looks like a lot more physically strong. I think
He
it's
just
quite
looks like a
exciting to
man
see him like
now.
that.
Like,
Yeah, like he's
yeah.
grown up a lot. It's only been a few months, but I guess he's been working a lot in the gym as part of his rehab.
I am
The thing
so
about Smith
excited.
Rowe,
Oh, sorry, go on.
I was going to say with Smith Rowe, I feel like we've complained about our bench just up until now in the episode. But I think just at least going into the North London derby and United and City, I actually now feel like we do have an attacker on the bench that we
Me
could
too.
bring on to change the game.
And then Mudryk coming in soon, hopefully. I think it's so funny how things go 180. Like it was literally just last weekend I was saying, no, I'm not confident it's going to happen. And now like I'd put my sort of mortgage on it happening, to be honest. But yeah, so I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like Smith Rowe off the bench, he is going to be a cheat code. And I think now that because this groin issue was something that was a recurring thing, right? And he's been playing with for years. Now that he's got that out of the way and he's just free to kind of learn under Arteta, develop, get the game time, I think he is going to fly up the levels personally. And then, yeah, I think Mudryk is almost there, and having him off the bench as well is going to be really, really good for the next few weeks. But yeah, so just quickly, obviously, for anyone that's been living under a rock, the team for Sunday: Ramsdale in goal, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Partey, Odegaard, Xhaka in midfield, and then the front three of Saka, Nketiah, Martinelli. Shall we go on to
Let's look at the Spurs.
Should we go on to their team if we have to?
Yeah, so I guess obviously we knew that Brian Gill's been playing a couple games while Richarlison's out and Kulusevski's out. They've not had too many options up front. So this is kind of for the podcast listeners. Last game, Tottenham against Crystal Palace, was a big 4-0 win for them away from home. They started with Lloris in goal, Romero, Dyer, and Lenglet in defence, Skip and Hoberg in midfield with Doherty and Perisic as wing backs, and then Kane with Son and Brian Gill either side of him.
Do you know if Bentancur's fit? Because that would be interesting if he's available or not. Because to be fair, I really rate him, and Kulusevski as well. He's so important to anything they do.
Especially from a creativity point of view, it does feel like I do think this game was perhaps more an indication of where Palace are at than the creativity that Spurs have. Something I saw that was quite interesting is that Tottenham have only created 3 big chances since the restart. So although they've managed to get points here and there, like that's not very sustainable. Like 3 in 3 games, it's not great reading, is it?
No, the start. I've got to be so careful what I say, considering we're playing them on Sunday. But I'll just be consistent with what I've said throughout the whole season. Like, it's not even reactionary now. Their style of football, how like it's effective if you want to get top 4, but how anyone can sit there and pay their hard-earned money to go and watch them, I will never get it. Like, yeah, it's bad, really bad. But like they are effective, and against possession-based teams, they have the ability to kind of hurt you on the counter, and obviously they sit deep, they soak it all up, and then bang, Kane's playing in Son or Kulusevski on the other side. Kulusevski's playing in Son, and yeah, they can kind of go from back to front in 3 passes, which not many teams can. And like a wider holistic point, I think the ceiling for them as a football club is top 4. Like, and I think that's what kind of makes me chuckle personally, considering we've moved way beyond that. But
I guess Conte himself was the one saying that he thought that people saying that they were title challengers this summer were like living under a rock.
Yeah, man.
When the manager himself is saying that, like that kind of makes you question. He said getting top 4 last season was a miracle. Now, I do think Kane has been very consistent this season from a goal scoring point of view. He's only a few goals behind Haaland,
scary.
Right?
Yeah.
Like we talk about Haaland this season with his kind of 21 goals in 16 games, but Kane isn't far off. In terms of something I've read from a Spurs fan that's quite interesting, actually. So we always talk about Kane being quite creative and plays like a playmaker at times. He's not just a striker. They mentioned that when you compare last season's stats and this season's stats, like the kind of the XG numbers, expected goals for Kane, they've kind of stayed the same, but his expected assists have dropped off a cliff a bit. And where we saw Son was playing incredibly last year in that Golden Boot race, they are kind of saying that they want to see Kane play further back like he was more last season, like dropping deep to dictate playmaking. So they feel that perhaps some Spurs fans, not all of them obviously, but some of them that I spoke to, they feel that Kane is not playing in the same creative role as before. And that's part of the reason why Son's output for goals has suffered so much. So I do wonder if they revert to that against someone like us, where we do want to keep possession and Kane could sit further back. And we saw it in other games against them, right, over the last few years, where Kane would almost be in the center circle and ping a perfect pass to someone like Son. And they did that against City twice to beat them both times, right? Like I remember Son scored a goal against Edison 1-on-1, Son from outside the box at an angle because he'd been released from one pass by Kane. And I do think that we're seeing less of that.
Yeah, like I tried to speak to like a few fans of every club, and I've always got a select few that I listen to for whether I actually think they know their football and stuff. And like the ones I speak to about Spurs, so like James from Planet FPL, Adam and Baker on Above Average FPL, like they've been saying the exact same thing that you just said your friend said, in terms of like Kane has not been playing that deeper role, and they all want him to, because his passing, like as much as he's annoying, like he's a very good passer of the ball. Like he's a very complete centre forward. And yeah, I think I only echo what you say there, really. And I absolutely think they will revert to that on Sunday. I think, so before we go into score predictions, I guess like little tactical things worth noting.
Yeah, let's go to some
I absolutely. I don't.
Oh, that is score predictions.
Yeah,
okay. We'll stay on the
just
lineup.
Keep it on there for now. But yeah, I absolutely think they will revert back to stylistically. Kane's going to pick up the ball slightly deeper, and try to on, and if it's Kulusevski or Brian Hill on the wing through. But how I think this game will go. People will say I'm like maybe rose-tinted glasses or biased. I actually thought last year at their place, we started phenomenally. You know what I said last week about arriving in the final third as a unit, and like every wave, it looks like we're going to do something. It wasn't quite to that level of prowess last year, but that first 10-15 minutes, whenever the red card and the penalty was, we started brilliantly. We had them pinned in. And you know what I always say, like Spurs fans sell themselves this narrative of like, oh, we like to give you the illusion that you're controlling the game when you're not. And it's like, yeah, but we were. Like, they want us to have the ball, but they don't want us to have it in their final third as frequently as we were. And that's how I see this game going. You remember earlier in September, we started absolutely relentlessly. And I know Jesus went on that mad dribble and that kind of set the tone earlier in the year. I think we're going to turn up like that on Sunday. I really do. And there's two points I'm trying to make here, which I'll go on to. So one is a tactical thing and one's an emotional thing. So I'll start with the emotional one. What did I say when we played Man United earlier in the season at Old Trafford? I wanted to see us play the game, not the occasion, right? And I know we lost that game, but I genuinely think we played that game. I thought tactically we executed it perfectly. And there were little 5-minute spells where we kind of lost our heads. But overall, as a game, I think we executed our game plan. And that game was just variance. I strongly believe that. But this Arsenal team is different. Like, I know people are going to say, oh, we've not won away since 2014 in the North London Derby in the league. And I agree. But this Arsenal team is so different. We've gone to Chelsea, just completely pissed in their backyard. Brentford away, teams are struggling there. We just completely shat on them at home.
They've only lost to Arsenal at home this season.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just think on the emotional side, if we play the game of football, I think we will have joy. And where I see the joy coming is tactically. Like, it's basically the case study of what the home game was in September. Overloads all over the pitch. I think the positional play we play is so bloody clever in the way we have just numerical superiority all over the pitch. There's triangles, there's overloads absolutely everywhere. There's 3v2s. And I think where Tottenham play that back three, back five, whatever you want to call it, and they really do sit in deep, we are so good against deep blocks now. And the kind of combination play we have with Odegaard, White on one flank, Xhaka, now Martinelli and Nketiah, I know the dynamic's a little bit off with Jesus, but I still think that can be replicated. I think Tottenham are going to try push us quite far wide. And what's making me say that is what we saw in the first game against them
like for that
year.
first goal, right? We had to, like, it's almost like White had to make an overlapping run, then pass it on to Partey to score from outside the box, and they'd be practicing and training shots like that because they thought we would suffer and not be able to get to the byline, which seemed the case, right? And they've probably watched the Newcastle game, analyzed it. They saw how well Newcastle were trying to prevent any options or passing lanes from the flanks into the box or into the half spaces. So I'm sure that Conte will tactically have spent this time training as well and prepping to try and nullify us. So we are going to have to like execute the game plan perfectly. But I think it's an exciting matchup, that's for sure. And I'm much more confident than when we went to their home ground last year. I think we're a whole different team. Obviously, in that game, we had Rob Holding and Cedric as the right defense side. We had El Neni instead of Partey playing as the lone six. So there's a big difference here.
And we controlled the game before those
events. Up until the incidents, So obviously Holding got the red card. Cedric gave away the penalty. So I think we kind of capitulated in that sense. But before those incidents, especially, God knows why Holding was the one who, while already on a yellow, felt the need to be the guy marking Son and take him out. But I'd like to think that having Saliba and White instead of Cedric and Holding and having Partey instead of El Neni, I'd like to think those are game changers. Yeah, exactly. I'd like to think those are game changers.
Yeah,
so I'm quietly confident. I would really like to get rid of our record, as you say, of not having won away at Spurs since 2014 in the league.
I think it's 2014. That's the last one I remember.
No, it is. Yeah, it is. But equally, it's similar for Spurs, right? So Spurs haven't beat Arsenal at Emirates for like over 10 years either. So
I think the difference
similar.
Is,
like we always struggle at each other's grounds.
Yeah, I agree. But I think the difference is I never feel like they're going to come to ours and win. And there's genuinely something about this team where I genuinely think if we just play the game of football tactically, overload the flanks, kind of vacate space in the middle, be brilliant in decision making in tight spaces in that final third, I think we beat them on Sunday. I genuinely do. I think this team we got the youngest team in the league, but their wisdom, they are wise beyond their years with some of their experiences. Like
I saw Odegaard talk about this because at the unveiling of the new artwork, I think it was Arsenal, maybe on Arsenal Vision actually. Yeah, so Arsenal Vision did a podcast and it had like small 5-minute interviews with people who were at the unveiling. And they actually spoke to like Vinay, the CEO. They spoke to Odegaard. They spoke to Jack Wilshere. And when they spoke to Odegaard, they asked him stuff about being the youngest team and how young he himself was as a captain. And he kind of pushed back a bit on that and said like, he was basically like, yeah, like I might be young or like they might be young, but we have a lot of experience. So it was kind of like he was basically implying that like age is one thing, but the experience some of the squad have, even though they're young, like players like Saka who've played so much through the youth.
Yeah.
Yes, they're a young player, but they probably have the wisdom or maturity of a slightly older player in the way they would.
Take Odegaard as the example. He's been on the first team scene since he was 15. Like that in the press move to Real Madrid. Like look at
He's
Ben White rising up
leagues and stuff, right? Like
Ben White's young, but he's risen up through the bloody football league. Like from
Ramsdale's played with so many teams.
Yeah,
He's been player of the season every year while they get
in relegation teams.
Yeah.
Think of like the character building that builds for you. Like so on Martinelli being plucked from the 4th division in Brazil. Like although they're young, that like it's life experience, right? They've been through so much more than many other players have been. So sorry, that was a bit of a tangent, but yeah.
No, that's good. Let's go to the score prediction based off where you think the tactically and emotionally, if we don't let the game get to us, we might end on. So obviously we've predicted 17 matches so far. We've both
also I just want to throw in there's the tactics, there's the emotion. I just want a fucking fair referee. Like just have a game that is refereed consistently. That's all I bloody ask for. And that's
you just want to see the same decisions that we see. We'll talk about the referee after the game, I'm sure. And then I can continue my rant about referees from last week's Newcastle review episode.
Yeah, let's do that in the review one. But score predictions. Yeah, do you want to go first, or should I?
Yeah, no, I'll go. I'm just having a look here. So, okay, we've both basically predicted the same number of correct outcomes. Correct scores wise, we're doing okay. I want to fix that and get higher than 30% if possible. So maybe this is the game I do it. I will go with. So I'm convinced Harry Kane will score. I'm just convinced. So
and it'll be a penalty.
Exactly. So I'm absolutely convinced of that. But I do think we can win. I am going to go with 2-1 Arsenal.
Interesting. I'm going one more. I'm going 3-1.
I'm going for the
same as the home game. Like honestly, like this will come and soundbite me in the arse. But if the game is refereed fairly and we turn up and play, Tottenham can bring their best selves. If we turn up and just play our game, we don't lose our emotions. The game is refereed fairly. I'm very confident. So I'm going 3-1.
Nice. 3-1 and 2-1. We'll see how that gets on. So I think we're probably a little bit over time and I don't see any questions that have come in today in the live chat. So I think we'll just wrap up there and thank everyone for tuning in. We will be back early next week to review the Spurs game and also to preview the United game before that. So going to be lots of previews and reviews going forwards. If you're new to the channel, these previews are normally about 15 to 30 minutes. And then we do a slightly longer episode, about an hour for the review and look at the tactical analysis and statistical analysis of the matches and how they unfolded. But if you've enjoyed the episode, if you found it entertaining, please hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and do comment if you have any stuff you'd like us to cover in the future episodes. But otherwise, good luck to the Arsenal this weekend. Come on, you Gunners.
It's the big one. Up the Arsenal. Come on.
Up the Arsenal. Let's do this.